Maybe she'll put a few more love bites in. I know she's quite capable. Oh, she's beautiful, isn't she? I've never got bored of watching the way these spiders work. Warning, the warning on this video has been removed, although it's here to let you know that this video is highly educational. And yet that's no guarantee I won't be smacked down by the systems that are there to protect you and destroy me. On my morning walk, I somehow spotted this on the side of the road, and I think it's important to look at. Maybe you're having trouble seeing it. If I put my hand in there, maybe you'll start to see what I'm talking about. Okay, it's a cicada. And this summertime that we're having in 23-24 in Australia, where I live, has been a very, very lax cicada season. It's been, I'll call it one of the off years, but you do still sometimes find a cicada. This cicada is extremely well camouflaged. I'll just call it a bush cicada. It's a fairly big one. They do come in a smaller variety, much smaller. Let's see if it's a boy or a girl. There's no drums in this cicada, so this is a female. And this cicada is in its very, very final stage of life. In a sense, the adult phase here is basically the end of their life. And yeah, I think it's very important to point out, because I did say in another video I made during the summertime we had basically next to no cicadas. There were a few, okay, but not many. It's one of the years that's not the prime year, and I've never ever quite understood why there's massive years and other years you basically get, well, next to nothing. I think it all lapses back to prime numbers, how they don't overlap each other, and it's part of their survivability. They can have massive numbers some years that overwhelm their prey, and other years, well, there's next to none, and we're in one of the next to none years. The ants are going to love getting into that cicada. That's how nature works. Off in the distance I can hear the slight rasping of bush cicadas, but I can also hear a blasted lawnmower. Up on the tree here, there's another sign that we've had cicadas, but again, it's more of a sign we haven't had very many. I can see one shell here. That's where they come out of the ground. The nymph shell is there. Okay, so yeah, as I'm shooting this, we're into the final weeks of the cicada season, be it a very lax one. I've often made a lot of noise when it's a massive cicada year, but hey, sometimes it flips the other way. Sometimes the summer times are fairly quiet when it comes to cicadas. Hopefully, listening carefully, when I stop talking, you'll hear the bush cicadas rasping quietly in the bush. Well, I can hear the cicadas. I can also hear cockies screeching. Thank you, cockies. This is the next day, and I'm going to see how the ants have played with Mrs. Cicada that I left under the tree here. It's down on the ground somewhere here. Okay, there's the cicada nymph shell and the cicada, and I can see a lot of ant activity going on, which is really nice to see. If I come in nice and close, and if I uplift Mrs. Cicada, maybe we'll see a whole stack of ants doing what ants do when they have a lovely, lovely meal to play with. One thing I'll say about Mrs. Cicada today is she is a lot lighter than yesterday, so I think a lot of the meat in the cicada has been taken away by the ants, and that's what the ants will do, and all that will be left is probably the wings and maybe a little bit of the outer skeleton of Mrs. Cicada, the harder bits which you see on top here, probably the only things left. But we'll leave Mrs. Cicada here. The ants have made like a little thing here. Maybe their ant nest is directly underneath here, so they'd be taking the lovely meal directly down to the ant colony who live underground. I hope that was educational, or else the systems on YouTube are gonna fry me. It's a lovely part of the suburb here. It's got some really nice homes as well, but it's right next to the bush, and the biggest threat in this part of town is, of course, fire. We've had a very, very wet summer again, very humid, and it's in this part of town, in the fire zone, you'll see these strange blue cat's eyes on the road, and basically they're telling you there's a fire hydrant in the area. The H is there with an arrow pointing towards the hydrant. And even the cat's eye, if they've been installed correctly, have an arrow on them which points towards the hydrant. As I stand in the middle of the road here, over on the curb, if I follow the arrow, is the fire hydrant. And I also notice there's a H which has been put into the concrete there on the curb. That's a bit unusual. It's really important to understand where fire hydrants are when you need water to put out fires or refill tankers. I'm not sure where the idea of the blue cat's eye came from. I don't know whether it's an Australian idea or something from overseas. All I know is those blue ones are fairly hard to find as I collect cat's eyes off the roads. Well, looking at one thing tends to make me start to look at something else, and I know some people know I collect the cat's eyes that come off the road. What I've noticed is, because I've had a couple of quite wet years, I feel the wet roads have like a hydraulic effect, and I think it rips these off the road, and I find these as I walk around the suburb. The blue ones that we saw on the road earlier in the video is some of the hardest to find. You find damaged ones, that's a temporary one. When they're doing a new road, this is what they stick on before they come along and stick on the proper cat's eyes. So I've only ever found one temporary one just floating around. And what I wanted to get to is, I think I've only got one of those. So it looks like someone's done a burnout on it, being a bit of a Sherlock Holmes here, and it's ripped it off. And they're usually fairly well adhered to the road. I think I've only got one. If I tip these out, you'll see my oh, there's another one. Okay, so to me the blue ones are the most tricky to find because in a sense there's the least of those around. The sun's about to pop out and make it very comfortable out here. Yeah, so there you go. People say to me, oh Leah, why don't you show your cat's eye collection? Well, there you go, okay? Take a look at that. Take a good mental picture of that and let's just forget about it. Anyway, there's something beside the cat's eyes there which I feel is far more interesting. We're going to take a look at the Redback Spider, just called B2. Another egg sac got laid up yesterday, so that was on the 31st of January. I'm about to open this baby up. I'm just going to be nice and careful here because I do not know. Man, that's very hot actually, now that sun's popped out. Okay, there she is, and there she is with her egg sac. It's a ticking time bomb. It's going to take a couple of weeks. It all depends on the weather really when that egg sac is going to hatch, but I will take care of it before it does. I've got a little treat here for B2. I'm not sure whether it's going to work to put that in with her, but we'll give it a try, hey? Could get quite wild here. I'll introduce the bug and we'll see what goes on. Oops, the bug's going to start attacking the egg sac, and that's going to probably mean that, there we go. That's going to be a frippin' big good night sister, that one, I tell you. Wow, she's B2's really going for it. Bites, 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 bites. Wow, it's just stunning to look at. You could watch it all day long, and it's a lot of web has been deployed. There's a lot of bites that have been deployed as well, and it hasn't taken long at all. It's quite a large critter, that thing, and it can't move. It's web bound, and it would be suffering venom effect. Lots of venom, lots of bites. Again, I can say good night, sister. I always love the back leg action. I'm surprised how large B2 is in the rear end, considering she's just laid up an egg sac. That's really surprised me. She's a beautiful female redback, fully matured. And it was a mystery how she came here, but I have a sneaky suspicion. I know what's caused all the redbacks in the front yard. There's actually more redbacks to look at. It's because we had solar put on the top of our house, and that's what's created the redbacks from the, let's call it the roof or ceiling area. Okay, so I reckon that the solar panels on the roof have given these types of spiders the perfect environment to kick off on. It'd be hard to live up there. There's not much food, but it's a nice hot dry environment, which is what they really, really love to have. I reckon it's the solar panels that's caused all the spider havoc. Wow, she's just she's excited. Lovely meal there for her. And that critter is starting to look far less active now the venom's taking effect. Ooh, that venom must sting. Oh, here she comes. She's going to come back, maybe put a bit more web around. It's just a timeout thing with the venom. Maybe she'll put a few more love bites in. I know she's quite capable. Oh, she's beautiful, isn't she? I've never got bored of watching the way these spiders work. It's just miraculous. I've suddenly thought to myself, oh, I'm almost brave enough to put my hand in there. I don't think I would. Because if she thinks I'm trouble, well, I'm history. Got puppy dog next door. He's excited too. He always is when I'm trying to do some work. It's weird, I feel like I get better footage if I'm using my iPhone, and I'm not like hard up against the spider, but it looks like that I am. I know if she comes running towards me, I'm going to back off real fast, but she's completely preoccupied with getting that lovely meal, and I'm just got to try to keep her in frame. If she gets too close, it does fall out of focus. She's doing a bit of a web maintenance is what I call it, just strengthening up her lair. It's just, yeah, always entertaining, always exciting to watch. It's just beautiful in the strangest way. I'll let B2 alone in there now. I'm going to close it up. The phone's about to cark it because it's one of those very hot days and it gets into heat stress mode. I'll just very carefully put the lid on here, making sure I'm not going to hurt B2. Okay, and I've got other things to show you, but I've got to give the phone a bit of a break. I'm going to take a look at another lure which has a small redback spider in it, which may be a little bit bigger now. But before we get into this one, let's take a look at some lures behind me where I can see Mrs. Naughty playing up. The two spider lures in there in the front yard don't present any web, mind you. Look who's underneath there. Bubble! What the hell are you doing in there? Get out of there. You know what she's doing? She's after lizards. Bubble, come on. Come out. She's showing us her best side, isn't she? Come on. Out you come. Leave those skinks and lizards and frogs and God knows what alone. You've been a menace with those. Complete menace. She's getting her favourite rub now. Considering how humid it's been this summer, it's been wretchedly humid. I'd hate to have to wear this. We've got ceiling fans inside and we've noticed the cats have really gravitated towards the ceiling fans when they're not outside trying to get skinks and lizards. And there's Fluffy inside and she's on a bed but under a ceiling fan. She just loves the ceiling fan. And she's saying, leave me alone. Okay, I'm back on the main show here. This is one of the smaller spider lures. You can see the redback's web. Although some of this web may be associated back with B2 because B2 is beside this redback. I'm hoping she's still in here. I did look the other day to see if she's here. Just very careful here, opening it up. And we will take a look inside nice and carefully. Well, there she is down there. Very much easy to say she's a female redback spider now. She has grown a bit, man, she's got a bit of attitude, which is good to see. And I won't spend too much time with her, but I will let her go because she's a keeper. It was only just over 2 weeks back when I looked at this spider, and it was really just a spiderling. It's now an established looking spider. Very interesting, isn't it? Fantastic what putting solar panels on your roof does to your spider infestation at home. And let's take a peek at B2, because I'm pretty sure by now she'd be feeding. I've had a bit of a break because the phone went into hot day meltdown. Just very gently taking off fluid. Let's see what she's doing. Okay, it's lovely to look at. She's very invested in sucking the juices out of that critter there. The venom has taken full effect now. This is about half an hour on, and she will basically just feed and feed. I've seen them just gorge themselves, and they can, well, the back end of them can become huge. That's one thing I've noticed of redbacks, is they can just keep gorging themselves and, well, just keep making egg sacs. It seems to be the thing they're best at. I just get the cover back on. It is very warm when there's direct sun, but these spiders love a hot environment. Okay, I'm up near the front fence. That's Teddy's grave here, and Teddy's mum, Little Cat's grave, is there. She had quite an attitude, that's why I've used Angry Bird on her grave. I put one of the newer spider lures here, and on the 20th of January, I did notice there was web presenting at the base of this. And when I see things dangling like this, it says Redback. So let's take a look and very, very carefully have a look in here. This has become an interesting lure because there's actually other spiders as well sitting up on the mounting post there. Very carefully take this off. It's actually quite hot because it's a frippin' hot day with noisy things going past. Just making sure there's no spider up here. I can see, oh, okay, there's something living there. We'll get back to that. Okay, there's multiple spiders in this lair. There we go. I'll just get the video like that of there. So there's a spider living there. I'll just put that down gently there. And then looking at this lure, there's all the trappings of redback web, and if I spin around like this, you will see the redback, I hope. Okay, this is a female redback spider. It's still quite small. I'll get a tweezy in there to make a move. It's like her shadow is more fearsome than the size of a spider. There she is there moving. I'm all cookie hand to try to video this and all back the front. It's a bit, oh God, where's she gone? Hope she's not on me. There she is there, or at least her silhouette, which is quite spooky. And I'll just get her to move again, and then we'll leave her alone, hey? If I get my tweezers in there, oh, she's a fast one. Okay, from what I've seen of this girl here, she's a keeper. It's a little bit interesting that there's multiple spiders living here. Let me get the lid up and we'll show you very quickly the other spider living in what would be the outer side of the lid here. There's that spider there. It's a bit skitterish because I'm taking a look at it now and it's in the sunlight, but it would be living in an area where, well, the redback wouldn't be able to get to it, if that makes any sense. I'll make more sense of that when I put this back together, and I'll just get that little tiny spider to skitterish away again, probably go back to its little home down there. Hopefully a close-up for the spider experts to ID that spider for me, because I'm not going to even try. To make sense how that spider there can live on the outside without being taken out by Mrs. Redback, just remember this, where this area here is. This lug here has to combine with this section here. That's what the cutout's for, so that's what it slides down and keys into, in a sense. So I've got to get it around the right way. I've got to flip this over. Hope you're following me here. I'm just hoping I'm not going to be bitten by a spider, because that's got a key into the right spot. Okay, so it's like this, and if I put it down like this, being very careful, because I know there's a spider living on the outer thing there. It's in the section there, so I can't turn it anymore. And I can seal it down so that top part of the lure actually seals tight against that, but it leaves a gap here where I can get my finger in underneath there, and that's why spiders can live underneath here and be away from the spiders who live inside the lure. What's really nice is the spider lures are proving to lure spiders, which is what they're designed to do. Let's take a look at some lures in the backyard. This is out in the backyard. Noticing there's no cicada sound. I can hear maybe a chainsaw in the background, and there's been no redback spider indications at the spider lures in the backyard, and I dare say I've got to show you. If I don't show you, you're not going to believe me. Well, first up, there's no web going on underneath either of these two. We don't have to spend too much time here. And of course up inside here, guess what? No spider-roonies. Underneath the old lemon tree, there is another luxurious spider lure. It's one of the Rolls-Royce models, and as I keep saying, there's no web under here. I'm pretty sure we're going to find no spider. Okay, let's take a look down here. This one's curious. There is some web in here, but I can't see a spider. Maybe whoever was living here has been taken out by the skinks and whatnot. Yeah, so well, that was what was being eaten in the middle of that web. But I cannot see any spider-roonies at all. And a spider that's really been missing in action has been what I'll call the grey widow cement spider type spider. I have not seen those spiders for it feels like a fair bit of time. Over there is where the black pots used to be in the backyard along the fence line there. This is the second last spider lure I'm going to take a look at. It gets boring when you take a look at things and there's nothing there. There's no web underneath. This one's looking fairly rustic on top. And if we take a look inside here, I can see some very, very, very fine web. I'm just trying to see a spider, but it's not shouting at me, and there's definitely not any web going down from that frame there down to the ground, which is what would indicate redbacks. There is a spider in here. It is extremely small. I'm going to try and get it into my hand. Okay, it's crawling up me there. Maybe the best way we can see it, isn't it? If we see it crawling on me. Where's it going? Oh, God, I sort of semi-lost it. There it is there. Okay, whatever spider that is, that's who was living in there. It's extremely small, and I'll put it back in there. Hopefully it's in there. The spider did survive that hand shake off. It's right down the bottom corner there, and I will put this spider lure, without saying the word trap, back together here and let that lovely little spider have a lovely little home. So that was that spider lure there. God, the sun's going back in. It gets stinking hot when the sun pops out. Again, just look how lush the backyard is. And there's a patch of grass here I keep for the cats that they love to get into when it's a hot day. And if I go to the right spot here, you'll see where the cats have their little nests. Okay, so you can see where they've flattened it down there, and also another section over here where they get in there. Yeah, so the cats love to be in the long grass. You can only achieve long grass like that with the cocky in the background when it's a really wet summer. Nice piece of Tonka toy carnage here in the backyard. Very much reminding me of when I first started to find redback spiders in the backyard, because it was underneath toys like this maybe 8-9 years back, maybe a bit longer, a bit less. The redbacks love to set up because these toys presented with areas like this inside, which becomes the perfect home for redbacks. Maybe a spider in there, but hey, let's ignore it. Yeah, so they're nice and warm in the sun. The redbacks love to be inside toys like this. It's almost the perfect home. And when I saw the perfect home like that, that's what made me think, well, I can also make them the perfect home, which is like this. This is one of the newer lures, without saying the word trap. There's no web underneath here at all. This has been in here maybe a year, I think. I'm starting to lose count. I forgot to paint underneath the inside of these white. The original ones have got white underneath here. Maybe I'll just leave this like this. It's going to rust out. And why I painted them white is it's easier to see spiders and stuff, but inside this lure here, without using trap, it looks pretty clean. In fact, it looks totally clean, and yeah, this one hasn't been here that long. So in closing this up, maybe we can close up this video as well, hey? Okay, I better put this in this video or else you'll be screaming at me, where was the redback spider control chart? And I'm glad I'm showing this because I've just reminded myself of an interesting fact about the egg sacs that we saw in the video. Egg sacs take 4 to 8 weeks. Let's call it 6 weeks. So the egg sac that I saw, it's going to be hatching potentially at the beginning of March, if the worst case scenario, the end of February. And I think that these numbers here, it's all weather dependent or seasonal dependent, if that makes any sense. And the time when I shot this video, it was down in peak spider season. Let me go in closer and I'll show you the date. I shot the videos on the last days of January. In fact, the end part of the video was shot on the first day of February. That egg sac would be due to hatch, well, sometime here in March, the first weeks of March. If we're unlucky, it could be the end of February. Sorry about not showing this earlier in the video. Normally it's something I would start with if I'm taking a look at spiders, but the video was really about showing you something that there weren't many of, and that is cicadas. Very interesting to focus on something when there's very few to show you, and I think that's important to do. How are you? Thought you'd been here. That's your favourite spot, isn't it? The long grass.